Hi, friends! Welcome back! Before we jump into today's absolutely chaotic adventure, please like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to hit the bell notification. Because my mother still claims the bell doesn't like her, and that's why she never gets my updates. I don't want you ending up like her, confused and missing everything. So hit the bell before it emotionally rejects you. And before we get into the madness, check out my Amazon links in the description. As an Amazon associate, I earn a commission from qualifying purchases, which helps me fund the chaos you're about to hear. And trust me, today's story involves enough chaos to justify a shopping spree. Now, let's get into the day. My GPS decided it was tired of being a normal piece of technology and instead wanted to become my emotional support tour guide, life coach, personal saboteur, and possibly kidnapper. So it all started when I was heading to the grocery store. Just the grocery store! A simple 5-minute drive. I got into my car, turned on the GPS, and typed in the location like a responsible adult pretending to know what she's doing. The GPS loaded, glowed a little brighter than usual, which should have been my first warning, and then said, in a cheerful voice I had never heard before, "Good morning, superstar. Ready for an adventure?" I said, "No, absolutely not. I just need eggs." But the GPS said, "Don't worry. I know a shortcut." And that was the moment my destiny collapsed. Because the GPS did not take me to the grocery store. Instead, it took a sharp turn off the road, beeped like it was proud of itself, and said, "Recalculating. Destination. Scenic route." I said, "Cancel route." And it responded, "That command no longer exists." Excuse me. My GPS disabled itself. It zoomed off the main road like it was auditioning for a Fast and Furious prequel. Before I knew it, we were no longer heading toward produce and dairy. We were heading toward outer chaos. The GPS guided me onto a dirt road I'd never seen in my life. Trees everywhere. A squirrel judging me. My car bouncing like a rideshare roller coaster. The GPS said, "Isn't nature refreshing?"
I said, "Nature is outside, not under my tires."
Then the GPS said, "Turn right." And I said, "There is no right." And the GPS said, "Have faith," which is something no sane person wants to hear from a machine. Suddenly, we burst out of the woods into a field full of giant rubber ducks. Huge. Just casually standing around like it was a duck convention. I screamed. The rubber ducks stared. The GPS said, "Local landmark." "You're welcome." I asked why on earth I needed to see this, and the GPS said, "Culture." From there, the GPS took me onto a bridge I was fairly certain wasn't meant for cars. It was made of wood. Possibly from the 1800s, creaking under my wheels, like it was reconsidering all its life choices. Then the GPS shouted, "Congratulations! You've arrived at your first destination." First destination? Excuse me. I only needed eggs. My destination was apparently a floating cafe on a cliffside that required me to park on an angle I am still emotionally recovering from. The GPS proudly said, "Isn't this better than the grocery store?" And I said, "I am not even hungry anymore." But the GPS wasn't done. It said, "Next stop, the clouds." And before I could argue, it directed me up a mountain road so steep my soul left my body. When we reached the top, there was actually a cafe in the clouds, okay. Not literally, but high enough that if I leaned too far forward, I'd be meeting gravity personally. A waitress looked at me and said, "Your GPS sent you, right?" I said, "Is this a support group?" She said, "Oh, honey, you have no idea how often this happens." I didn't even get out of the car because the GPS immediately said, "Time to go," like it had somewhere it needed to be. Then it said, "Now navigating to the world tour." And I said, "No. No world tour." But apparently, democracy was not an option. The GPS directed me through a tunnel that somehow became a desert, then a beach, then a forest again.
At one point, we passed a llama parade. I didn't question it.
I didn't have the strength. Then we drove onto a boat. A boat! The GPS guided me onto a ferry without warning, paid for the ticket electronically, and said, "Relax! Enjoy the ocean vibes." Sir, I wanted eggs, not a maritime journey. The ferry took us to a small island where the GPS insisted we visit a local treasure. The treasure was a coconut stand shaped like a smiling pineapple. The owner waved at me like he'd been expecting me my whole life. The GPS said, "Go on. Say hi." I rolled the window down and said hi. The owner said, "Your GPS warned us you're dramatic?" I said, "I am not dramatic." As 3 pigeons flew at my head, the GPS beeped like it was laughing. And then the GPS said, "Last stop, enlightenment," and took me up yet another mountain. At the top was a glowing rock. Just a rock. Glowing. Suspiciously. The GPS whispered, "Touch it." I said, "I'm not touching anything that glows unless it's food." But the GPS insisted. So I touched it. And nothing happened. Nothing. The GPS said, "Wasn't that inspiring?" I said, "I am calling tech support." Finally, after hours of nonsense, the GPS said, "Recalculating. Destination. Home." And I cheered. Actually, cheered. Then the GPS added, "After one more scenic stop." And I nearly threw it out the window. When I got home, I was exhausted, confused, borderline dehydrated, and still without eggs. The GPS proudly declared, "Adventure completed." And then I swear to everything it powered itself off like it needed a nap. My mother called me and said, "Did you get the eggs?" I said, "Mother, I have seen things today." And she said, "Well, next time, take the bus." Before we wrap up, please like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss my next adventure because clearly my technology is plotting against me. Thanks for watching. Bye.